ओम शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर्गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। So from here it is the actually we started Artha Shastra from the previous session. So we had this the first opening sentence Prithivyaha labhe palane cha and etc. So after that it is about actually giving a structure to the whole the whole work. So even though it is not said to be a sutra bhashya kind of a work, but the way it has been actually designed, it actually fits to the what you call the structure of sutra and bhashya, but with a difference. Normally, what happens is there will be one sutra, and the explanation in the this thing of bhashya will follow after the sutra. But here we have like first all the sutras are said, and then the bhashya is will start. So there is a difference in the structure. So the first adhikaranam is called as vinayadhikaranam, and the first sutra is vidya samuddesha. So vidya samuddesha is the first sutra, vidya samuddesha. Tatra vinayadhikarikasya prathamadhikaranasya prathamam prakaranam samuddishati. And here also each and every sutra is called as prakarana actually. So it is a division of actually the work, but in the form of sutra. So it's a bit different. It's not called as sutra, it is called as prakaranam. Vidya samuddesha prakaranam. But if you actually see the definition of the sutra, it fits to the definition of sutra. Then afterwards, afterwards, this Vidya Samuddesha will be elaborated. Anvikshaki Trayi, the Varta Dandanitischeti Vidyaha, so on and so forth. Vidya Samuddeshaha iti Vidyanam Anvikshaki Trayi Varta Dandanitihi Ityetasam Chatasrunam Samuddeshaha Vidya Samuddeshaha. So he's giving the explanation for the word Vidya Samuddesha. As it is a compound word, there is Vidya and Samuddesha. Vidyayaha Samuddeshaha Vidya Samuddesha. So this is the Shashti Tatpurusha. So what Vidyas are here? What are Vidyas? According to Chanakya, it is Anvikshaki, Trayi, Varta and Dandaniti. These four are Vidyas, and Etesham Samuddesha, Etasam Vidyanam Samuddesha, where detailed description of these Vidyas and their objectives are explained. That particular Prakaranam is called as Vidya Samuddesha Prakaranam. Tadakhyam Prakaranam ityartham. So Akhyam means name. So the Prakarana's name is Vidya Samuddesha. Vidya Samuddesha ityetacha sutramiti vyavahartavyam. So here the commentator says we have to understand Vidya Samuddesha to be a sutra, vyavahartavyam, vistara bahulartha garbhatvat. Why? Because this needs a very detailed explanation. Whatever a very short expression shall need, or a statement shall need a vast explanation or a greater amount of explanation, that can be considered to be a sutra, and this fits to the characteristics of a sutra, hence this can be called as a sutra. Vistara arha bahula artha garbhatvat. So it has the eligibility to greater explanation, and hence this can be called as a sutra. सूत्रमेव च इदं तत् प्रकरणे आन्वीक्षकी त्रयी वार्ता दण्डनीतिश्चेति विद्याः इत्युपक्रम्य स्वधर्म कर्माभिरतो वर्तते स्वेषु वेश्मसु इत्यन्तैः त्रिभिरध्यायैः महता प्रयत्नेन प्रपञ्च्यते इति सूत्रस्य तथाविधं व्याख्यानं भाष्यं भवितुमर्हति. So this Vidya Samuddesha Sutra is being explained from the opening sentence of Anvikshaki Trayi Varta Dandanitischeti Vidyaha till Swadharma Karma Bhirato Vartate Sveshu Veshpashu. So this is the last sentence. So in 3 adhyayas, this Vidya Samuddesha is being explained from the starting word, starting sentence to the end sentence has been given here to show the extent of it. So ityetaihi ityantaihi tribhiradhyayaihi. With 3 adhyayas, it is being with lot of effort that it is being explained, and hence that can be called as a bhashya. That is, the first 3 adhyayas can be called as bhashya, and this can be called as a sutra. Evam prakarana adhikarana samuddeshaha ityukta chaturam ityukta charam uttaranyapि vruddha sanyogaha ityadini sutrani bhavanti tattat prakaranagatani prapanchana vakyani cha bhashyani. So in this way, each and everything. So the second sutra, the second prakarana is called as Vruddha Sanyoga. Again, there you have 1 or 2 adhyayas of explanation on Vruddha Sanyoga. So that can be called as Bhashya, and this is the sutra. So this is how you have to understand the whole work. एवञ्च स्वयमेव विष्णुगुप्तश्चकार सूत्रञ्च भाष्यञ्च इति ग्रन्थोक्तिः उपपन्ना भवति इति वेदितव्यः. So at the end we find this स्वयमेव विष्णुगुप्तः चकार सूत्रञ्च भाष्यञ्च. So in the ending we find this, that Vishnugupta or Chanakya, he himself has written the sutra and bhashya of Artha Shastra. So this can also be actually this fits to the design. So even though it hasn't been written with the name of Sutra and Bhashya, but what you call Prakaranas and Adhyayas, but with the closing sentence, we can understand that this is a Sutra Bhashya format also. So it's a multi layered or multiple explanations can be given to the design of the work itself. So so then what we have? All right. Okay.
Sir, just a quick question here.
Yes.
This self-awareness of the text, that it is clarifying upfront which genre it belongs to, how it has to be read, what is this one? Is that, of course, they are linked, but what is it an adherence to a tradition in the sense that they know that the literature is organized this way and therefore it has to fit that? Or is it also, in a modern design language, since we're using the word design and everything, when we talk about user centricity, when we talk about all of these things of, putting the user at the center, there is also a reflection and empathy of informing the user how to work with the text.
Okay.
Right? And so when we, because some of these principles we are told are this one, right? About how today's products are all, user centric and all of that. What is the primary concern? And they are not different. I'm not saying they're different. The tradition's concern would be the user's concern. But who is it addressing? Is it addressing to the acharyas and the fraternity, like in an academic context, or is it addressing the user primarily?
What I feel is, this is my understanding. What I feel is, this actually maybe addresses the psychology of humans. So the Sutra Bhashya thing, whenever I see it, I feel like it goes with this a method called Utthita Kanksha. So unless and until you are a jignasu, that means you have the desire to know, never did any of the acharyas were actually imposing knowledge upon people. It was moreover like Samitpani Shrotriyam Brahmanishtam. Until the Vidyarthi himself will approach Acharya with a jignasa. So what happens is, while you go through the sutras, you understand something, you understand much, you do not understand something. So what happens is, the curiosity is actually awakened by the sutras. Then when they approach the acharya, then the bhashya is actually taught. So maybe it is like they are addressing the human nature through this structure, is what I feel. And another thing is, this is before the this kind of this is for the approach to the knowledge, and after actually completing the whole study or the whole adhyanam, what happens is, again, this sutra will be very much useful for you to actually summarize the whole text.
Yeah.
So in both the ways, actually, it serves a purpose. And this Utthita Akanksha is very much important. That is what I feel. That means you should have this desire to know. So this sutra work will actually give you that. Oh, what is this? Then in a very regulated manner, you will be given knowledge that you can actually digest. And internalize and reflect. Maybe we can call it as user-centric also.
Obviously we are imposing some of the current this one, but it is, like you said, it is ultimately about the pedagogy of that and understanding human nature about how we learn. And customizing to that.
What I feel is anything, whatever these structures, even in the Tantra Yuktis or if you see all our actually knowledge sources, they start with the sutra format. Let it be Maheshwara Sutras or Nyaya Sutras. Everything has a sutra grantha to it, and from there it is moreover like a glacier, from which the actually river actually comes out.
Thank you.
तत्र विनयविहीनः लोकशास्त्रव्यवहारेषु अशिक्षितः राजा राज्यरक्षण अनर्हत्वात् वैनयिकीषु विद्यासु अशक्यं विनेतव्यः इत्यतः विद्यासमुद्देशः इत्येतत् प्रकरणमादौ सूत्रितम्. So again there comes, this is called as Vinayadhikara. So the first adhikarana is called as Vinayadhikara. So why it is called as Vinayadhikara? Because why it is that the first prakarana is Vidya Samuddesha. So now it is moreover like giving a logical reasoning for why did he start here? Why did he start with Vinayadhikara? Why didn't he start with something else? This work is actually intended keeping in mind the administrators. So why did he start with Vinayadhikara? Why didn't he start with directly with the administration part of it? So then they say, Tatra Vinaya Vihinaha Lokashastra Vyavahareshu Ashikshitaha Raja. A Raja who is not actually humble and who is not well versed in the Loka Shastra, that is the science of maybe public administration and public policy, he cannot administer the Rajya. He cannot administer his country. So why? Because where there is no humble, humble nature, there the vidya, the knowledge cannot reside in that person who is not humble. So and hence this vinaya or being humble is very much the key aspect of a raja, and this can be achieved by the vidyas, So he's giving first reason for why Vinayadhikara is first, because the whole whatever the concepts that are dealt in the Vinayadhikara will at the end give you Vinaya, that is being humbleness, and then afterwards he's giving another reason why Vidya Samuddesha first, because it all starts with Vidyarjana. It all starts with the Vidyarjana, and hence the first prakarana is called as Vidya Samuddesha, and the first adhikarana is called as Vinayadhikara. And then Vidyascha Vriddha Sanyoga Abhave Labdhum Nashakyaha iti Vriddha Sanyogaha iti Sutram. So the second sutra is Vriddha Sanyogaha. So why Vriddha Sanyogaha? Vidyascha Vriddha Sanyoga Abhave Labdhum Nashakyaha. If you do not have proper relation with your elders, then it is impossible for you to actually inherit the legacy or the knowledge. So you need to know how to actually maintain relation with the vriddhas or the elders. It could be elders of your own family or vamsha. It could be the elders of that particular vidya, anyone. So elders in common. So you need to have good rapport with them in order to get guidance, one. And the second thing, in order to inherit knowledge. Why? Because this is very much I feel this has some, another, relation with the concept of progeny. Why should we have kids? So that is a very fundamental question. After getting married, why should we get married is one thing, and after getting married, why should we have kids? Because nowadays we have great people who are addressing, better not have kids, because there are many kids, around there. So adopt one of them. So why should we have kids? Because the whole and sole purpose of kids is nothing but giving passing on the baton of culture, history, samskaras, and etc. Nothing more than that. So एवं संतता ही मे लोकाः, एषां लोकानां संतत्यै एवं संतता ही मे लोकाः. Santati means, so we have this concept of samsara being anadi, and until moksha the samsara goes on. So if you have to give, because you as a child or as a son or a daughter of your parents actually inherited some of the knowledge which you may actually consciously know or don't know, because but the knowledge will pass on, the anuvamshika legacy, and you inherit cultural values, and it is your duty to actually again maintain the thread of anadi samsara being anadi, and again passing on the same knowledge, heritage, everything to the next generation, because this is how this samsara is sustained. If there is no progeny, then there shall not be no samsara ahead. So esham lokanam santatye, in order to actually sustain the locus or the whole process, the whole cosmos, you have to actually have kids. Because why? That is the only way you can actually pass on your legacy, and this has to be done, and it is your duty of being a human. So this is what the Shastras say. So this has something to that also, a relation to that, you need to have a relation with your elders so that you can inherit something from them. Then the third sutra is Indriya Jaya. Vriddha Sanyogascha Indriya Jayamantarena Nalabhyaha iti Indriya Jayaha iti sutram. So the third sutra is Indriya Jaya, or the third prakarana. Why Indriya Jaya? Because this Vriddha Sanyoga, that means having a good relationship, cannot be achieved without Indriya Jaya. So here we may go into detail afterwards. So Indriya Jaya doesn't only mean your Jnanendriyas, but your Karmendriyas also. That means you need to know how to talk to them, what to talk to them, what not to talk to them, how to behave with them. So you have certain decorum to maintain. If you go to a great scholar, you cannot sit however you may want, you cannot talk whatever you may want. There should be a way that you can, this all can happen only if you are having some authority or some control over your indriyas, jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. So that means it is moreover talking about the discipline aspect, without which actually you cannot, because without discipline, even the guru will not actually feel that you are yogya, or that means you are eligible to actually get the knowledge from him. So for that, this discipline is very much needed, and Indriya Jaya addresses that need. Then the fourth sutra is Amatyotpatti. वृद्धैः विद्यासु शिक्षितः जितेन्द्रियोऽपि सहाय अभावे कार्यं साधयितुं न क्षमः इति तदनन्तरम् अमात्योत्पत्तिरिति सूत्रम्. Okay, fine. He is disciplined. He is being trained by the elders. Even then, without the help, without some kind of a help, king cannot administer. So for that, he needs help of his ministers. So that is why we have the fourth prakarana to be Amatyotpatti. That is Vriddhair Vidyasu Shikshitaha Jitendriyopi, who is disciplined, who is Jitendriya, who has been trained by the Vriddhas or the elders, without Sahaya Abhave, without having help, he cannot actually fulfill his duties. So in that is why you need to know who the ministers are and etc. So that is why it is Amatyotpatti, the fourth prakarana or the sutra. Then Mantri Purohitotpatti. Then happens Amatyotpatti is done. Then we have Mantri Purohita Utpatti. Amatyascha kechit Vriddha Sachivyaya नित्य नैमित्तिक कर्म कर्म साचिव्याय च अपेक्षिताः वृद्धि साचिव्याय नित्य नैमित्तिक कर्म साचिव्याय च अपेक्षिताः शांतिक पौष्टिक कर्मानुष्ठानाय च अन्ये तदर्थं मंत्रिपुरोहिताः कर्तव्याः इति मंत्रिपुरोहित उत्पत्तिः इति सूत्रम्. So in the Amatyas there are based on the objectives they can be classified. So even a Purohita is an Amatya, a Mantri can also be an Amatya. So, but they have different objectives, different job profiles. So some of the Amatyas, they need for Vriddha Sachivya. That means for prosperity, in order to sustain prosperity in the country or in the land, you need some people. Prosperity in many ways. It could be commerce, diplomatic, whatever. It could be many ways of prosperity. And Nitya Naimittika Karma Sachivyaya. So the Raja has some Nitya Karmas and some Naimittika Karmas to him. It could be at times he may have to perform certain rituals for the prosperity of his country, like Varuna Yajna, or if there is no vrishti, or if there is no rain in the right time, so he may have to perform Varuna Yajna, or he himself he has to do some Nitya Karmas for himself as a Kshatriya or as a Raja. So for that he needs some help of the Purohitas. So Nitya Naimittika Karma Sachivyaya cha Apekshitaha Kechana. So for that he needs some Amatyas or some ministers for that. And shantika paustika karma anusthaya. So in order to maintain shanti, peace, and paustika, so it could be individual to societal, both kind of pushti means what? Strength. So for that, for society and for himself also, he needs some people who are dedicated to that purpose. So there are three main purposes here. One is the prosperity, the whole holistic prosperity of the country. One is the rituals part of it, which has to be addressed from time to time based upon the the season and etc. And there is another this thing that peace and strength, both from the micro to the macro levels. So these are three main objectives that they have identified, and for those you need to have dedicated people. So they are called as mantris and purohitas. Tadartham mantri purohitaha kartavyaha iti mantri purohitotpattiriti sutram. So you need mantri. Mantri is actually what? Mantranam means administering. So that is why we call them ministers, right? So to perform or to achieve certain objectives, you need certain people dedicated, and that means they have been given a very defined job profile. So they concentrate upon that job profile. So the purohitas, what is the word of purohita mean? Purasya hitam. So they actually think about the prosperity of the country. So that is his job. He doesn't think what is good for me. That is not his this thing. He every time thinks about what is good for the country. What should I do for the benefit of the country in the realm of Daiva? That means from the ritualistic or from the Daiva perspective, what is all that I have to do in order to address psychological stress. It could be at time stress in this like drought and etc. situations. What are all the rituals that I can perform in order to actually achieve rain at that particular time? So these are all there, right? And there are at times so we have very great realm of this abhicharika kriyas, that they actually, that some shatrus will do some kind of a prayoga in order to psychologically affect the king. So he has to protect the king in the mantra, through the mantra anusthana and etc. So there will be many things. Even today, we actually, maybe we will have people testing out, things like before the prime minister eats, some person may eat and actually see whether that is poisoned or not, and etc. So these are all right. These are all, we see it in a very materialistic this thing, but there are other what you call from other realms also, there will be some attacks which you have to actually protect the country from. So there are certain duties for the Purohitas. So for that you need to have Purohita. So that is why Mantri Purohita Utpatti. Then the sixth prakarana or the sutra is Upadhibhihi Shaucha Shaucha Jnanam Amatyanam. तैश्च सर्वप्रकार विशुद्धैः भवितव्यम् इति उपाधिभिः शौचाशौच ज्ञानम् अमात्यानाम् इति सूत्रम्. So here in the sixth prakarana, it is about the how do you what you call, we call it as what, a background check. Shaucham and ashaucham here means whether the mantris and purohitas or the amatyas, how do you select them? How do you do the test of their eligibility, whether they are eligible or not, whether they are trustworthy or not? So that is next in the sixth prakarana. And then upadha shuddhi gudha purushantarena jnatum ashakyeti tataha gudha purushotpattiriti. Then the seventh prakarana is gudha purusha pranidhi. Gudha purusha means we may call them as spies, spy or investigators. Essentially, it is moreover like IB, information that you, intelligence that you actually have to have. So how do you verify, or how do you actually check the eligibility of ministers before taking them? Background check. So you need to have one kind of an administration where actually who does all this work without the knowledge of others. That means they do it in a very secret, discreet manner. So you need to have a secret service for that. So Gudha means secret. Gudha Purusha means the people who are discreet. That means they are like spies. So their main motto is to collect intelligence without the knowledge of either parties. So how to collect? So you need to have people dedicated for that. So without having this kind of a sect of people, you cannot actually verify the background of Amatya, Purohitas and Mantris. So for that, you need to have Gudha Purusha. Shausha Shaucham Amatyanam, what you call, Gudha Purusha Mantarena Jnatum Ashakya. Gudha Purusha Mantarena. Gudha Purushas are these discrete people, or the the division of discrete people. Without them, you cannot achieve. So and hence you need to have Gudha Purushotpatti. And the
quick question.
Yes.
Sorry. Shaucha, you have interpreted that as competency.
Here it is Shaucha means, it is competency and the background. How is their background? Is it good or bad?
So it's like a background verification check. It is, yeah. So Shaucha is
Shaucha
also...
is not in the sense of Dharma Shastra Shaucha.
Okay, yeah. So that again, trying to point out that the way we understand Shaucha is only so much of physical purity or ritual purity and all of that, the way it is this one. This is also about the intention and the background check. Yes. All of those. I think
this Shaucha is mostly for the, based on their character.
Yeah.
And that
competence, character, their lineage and all of that. Yeah. Ethical.
Yes. Yeah. And even in Dharma Shastra perspective also, Shaucha is a very tricky, very multifolded concept. It cannot be only bit related to only external and psychological hygiene. It is beyond that actually. At times, Shaucha can only be known through Shastra. So that you cannot actually know. For example, I'll give you one example. We have this in the traditional families. We have this achara where if you actually touch cooked food, cooked rice, or that food in which you actually have this tempering, what tiragamotana antarandi, which is called as tempering, right? You put tadka jo bolte hain, yeah. That food items, if you actually touch them, you have to wash your hands. So that is why in the traditional families, everywhere you have a small, they all pour some water down on the floor. Okay, whenever they touch with their left hand while they're eating, whenever they touch rice or anything, they actually again touch water. And ghee and curd and etc. are kept aside. They are not kept near the cooked food. They are actually meant to kept aside. Once if they actually touch with this, then that will also will not be eligible. Then also you have to again touch the water. So this is shaucha, which doesn't, you cannot relate it with either what you call external hygiene. It doesn't, you don't find anything. What is this will be like moreover like a very what you call andha vishwas kind of this thing, but it has a relation with the concept of shaucha. So that shaucha is can only be determined by the shastras. The shastra is the pramana there, and the shishtachara is the pramana. Shishtachara means where the shishtas or the people who are actually following all these rituals and performing all these rituals and following the tradition, they themselves are the living examples. So if they are performing certain acts, then you have to take them as pramana and you have to obey them. So here you don't find anything shaucha in any space. This is something related to shaucha where dharma shastra itself is the pramana. So that is why
bring these things out, that this is, if you think we are oppressing others, then we are oppressing ourselves also.
Definitely. And even in this, the concept of madi, which we call or sola in other this thing, there, if being myself, I cannot even touch my son if I'm in madi. It's very compartmented. I cannot touch anyone in my house. So that's a very different understanding. You need to have a different understanding for that. The shaucha, as the shaucha came here, so that's why I thought. Yeah. And तेषाञ्च स्वामि नियोग मंतरेण अव्यापारात् गूढ़पुरुष प्रणिधिः इति सूत्रम्. गूढ़पुरुषाणां प्रणिधिः प्रणिधानं तत्तत्कार्येषु स्वामिना नियोजनम् इति तदर्थः. Then the eighth prakarana is गूढ़पुरुष प्रणिधिः. So first you are actually defining what why do we need gudha purushas and what are their duties. And this next division, it actually deals with how do you actually what you call give them work. What is the job that they have to do, and how should you do that? Teshancha swami niyoga mantarena. These gudha purushas cannot work without the order of their head, right? The king. Without the orders of the king, they cannot work because they don't know what to do. Because the king has to tell, or the king has to tell them what to do. So then it is actually for the king to actually know what kind of duties have to be given to which kind of gudha purushas. So again, there may be classifications of gudha purushas. So gudha purushanam pranidhanam means here giving them specific duties or specific work. So that is gudha purusha pranidhi. Then we have what after Gudha Purusha Pranidhi, it is Swavishaye Kritya Kritya Paksha Rakshanam. Swavishaye Taishcha Niyuktaihi Swarajyagatana Kruddha Lubdhadin Vignaya Tad Dosha Pratividhanam Pararashtragatan Vignaya Tesham Bhedanena Swapakshe Praveshanancha Avashyakamiti Swavishaye Kritya Kritya Paksha Rakshanam iti Paravishaye Kritya Kritya Pakshopagraha iti sutre. So there are two sutras, 9th and 10th. Swavishaye Paksha Rakshanam and the Paravishaye Kritya Kritya Pakshopagraha. So now a certain kind of idea is given. What are all the needs of Raja? Is one, he has to have knowledge, for which he has to have good relation with his elders in the Rajya. And after that, he need to have the support of amatyas, mantris, and purohitas. And afterwards, in order to actually identify or have mantri purohitas, he needs to have a gudha purusha structure. And afterwards, he has to know what are all the things that he has to give them, or the duties that he has to give them to these Buddha Purushas. And after all this, what should he actually know how to administer? I mean, then he has to identify the maybe clusters in society who are not actually happy with his administration, or who are not actually progressing well. Kruddha Lubdha. Kruddha means, maybe you can take it as, who are not happy. Lubdha means who are stingy. That is, they're not working actually as they have to work. That means this is hindering the progression or the prosperity of the nation. Vijnaya tad dosha pratividhanam. He has to take some action in order to neutralize them. And pararashtragatan, he has to know domestic, that means he has to know that are happening domestically and internationally also. I mean, beyond the borders, inside the borders. So both the things he has to know. So, and even pararashtragatan vijnaya, he has to know what's happening in the other countries, and whether they are actually, whether they are threatening or not. So he has to employ certain kinds of diplomatical, maybe relations, samadana bheda dandopayas, and maybe see whether they are for him or against him. Okay. So avashyakamite swavishaye, he has to know what he has to do domestically. Swavishaye kritya paksharakshanam, that is, domestically, what should I do, what should I not do, in order to defend my territory. And paravishaye kritya paksha upagraha, what should I do in order to maintain, or in order to keep at bay the threats for the country. So these two prakaranas deal, one prakarana deals with the domestic administration, and the other one deals with the external administration.
Sir, maybe sometime down the line, this is actually a very important area for public policy in a contemporary context. This balancing of the domestic policy with foreign policy.
Yeah.
For example, if we take a simple case where, let's say, in your country, you have good peanut production because of the environment or whatever. Therefore, your policy is domestically looking should be something that aids the export of peanuts to get the foreign currency, to to have the trade and create value for your farmers. So all of the policies should be to do that. But let's say there is a war situation, and one of the things that you need to do is make an ally with Vietnam to encounter China, just as an example. And let's say Vietnam also has high peanut production. That's their main national product. So what you can offer to them, one of the things that will come up is that you create a market for the thing that they are good at as a foreign policy. So which means that you will have to create conditions to import peanuts, even though you have them separate. This is, this happens all the time. So this balancing of strategic interests and local interests, this is a very tight rope walk for all policymakers. So when there is a hierarchy like this, if there is anything specific from the drishti, obviously the specifics won't be there. From the dharma drishti that we get through Artha Shastra, how do we look at these things? Maybe we can down the line explore some of these dimensions once we know the principles.
Yeah. Swadeshe krityaha shatrubhedyaha kruddhayaha akrityaha abhedyaha suhrida. So in Swadesha, that is in your country, what all should you do in order to neutralize your shatrus? That means who are working against the country, and what all things that you have to not do. I mean, akrityaha abhedyaha suhrida, who are actually helping the country to prosper. What all things you should not to do. I mean, at times it may be that a common policy may be structured in such a way, it's like an antibiotic. It kills the good bacteria and the bad bacteria both. So you should have that overview, that whether this is addressing only those entities which are actually against the country, and it should not actually harm those entities which are actually helping the country to progress. So that is why it is kritya akritya. Kritya for who, in order to neutralize your shatrus in your desha, in your domestic arena. And akritya, I mean, what all things you have to not do. At times it will be like Don't hinder their process. That itself is helping them. Don't create any roadblocks for people who are actually working towards the prosperity. Don't create any roadblocks. That itself is a great help for them. So in that way, kritya krityanam pakshanam sanghanam shatrupajapat rakshanamiti prathama sutrartha. So that is what this is the whole gist. Pararashtre ye kritya krityaha pakshaha tesham upajapadina Swapakshe Sangrahanam iti Dvitiya Sutrartha. So this is what in first one in the domestic arena, second one in the foreign arena. Then comes the 11th Prakarana or the Sutra, which is Mantra Adhikara. So what is Mantra Adhikara? Swarashtra Rakshanam Pararashtra Haranam Ityetavat Rajnyaha Karma Sarvaswam. So Swarashtra Rakshanam. So what is the main what you call the sorry my okay, so Swarashtra Rakshanam and Pararashtra Haranam. So these both are the main primary duties of a king, that is defend your country and if possible what you call even not invade, maybe try to even administer other countries also. It could be through your amatyas and etc. So moreover, like it is like we call it as Chhatrapati, right? Chhatradhipatyam. That means it is not essential that you go there and administer, but the larger framework will be that you will decide how another country. This is also we normally now see. It is not that the other countries come there and establish their own governments and then work, but the other governments will work in the framework that is being built up by some other country. So this is also there. Yeah. Miran Chappalantunnara?
No. One, of course, one is the idea of settler colonization versus colonization through other means by gaining leverage over policy. And secondly, it breaks the myth that there is no expansionism in the Indian thought, because that is a natural thing. And imperialism, Chakravarti, all of this, Chhatradhipatyam, all of this talk about grand political ambitions. I think that's something.
I think there is a slight difference between the
dharma.
That other Western mindset and our mindset would be maybe our main aspiration would not be to control their mindset, but to maintain the equilibrium in the society. Not to exploit their because that is also will come under adharma.
That's the thing.
Because you are starving that country.
Expansion is natural. That is dharmic. Kshatriya dharma has to expand, but it cannot impact the culture, and it cannot impact the lived reality of people, and it cannot impact the order that's established.
Not like the World War II famine that happened, artificial famine in India.
So those not things like are not this. That is adharma.
Tasya mantrayattatvat mantradhikaraha iti sutram. And right, and these both things, I mean the main duty of a king is Swarashtra Rakshanam and Pararashtra Haranam. So this can only happen with mantris. Mantrayat, mantram means here, mantranam means we have to take it as diplomacy, I suppose. Not like, okay. Iti sutram. Karmanam arambhopayadi sampradharanam mantraha. Okay. So what is mantra? The word mantra means is karmanam arambha upayadi samprasaranam. How to actually deal or where to start. How to start a diplomatic conversation, or how to actually what karma here is a very generalized word. Karma means any duty or any work, which is where you actually here it is about the main objective. Any activity whose main objective is Swarashtra Rakshanam and Pararashtra Haranam, that is mantra. That is mantra. And this prakarana deals with this mantra. That is this kind of duties, or how to actually start, where to start, what to do, whom to actually use, what are the resources that you have to use, and etc. So this is one. Then the 12th sutra is Duta Pranidhi. Good. Pararashtra karaniyānām svakarmanām swayam kartum ashakyataya duta sapekshatvat duta pranidhihi iti sutram. So in order to perform duties or in order to achieve your objectives in other countries, you cannot do it by yourself because you are not the administrator there. So in order to fulfill those targets or those objectives, you need to have dutas or diplomats. So, swakarmanam swayam kartum ashakyata. You cannot do whatever is in your interest in other countries. So, you need people who actually will go there and achieve your objectives. So, they are called as dutas. And duta pranidhi in this prakarana, we will cover the diplomatic, who are all could be the dutas and etc. I suppose I even request Namrata if you can see like Raghavji said, what are all the things, I mean, what are all the prakaranas that could be useful so that afterwards we can have a specific, because that is what I meant, I also intended, because not all things that we can cover every time. So maybe if we can actually narrow down to certain topics or certain prakaranas which will actually be helpful for us, so then we can deal with them. So yeah. Then 13th. So what is the 13th? Rajaputra Rakshanam. So this is a wonderful thing. Yeah. Yatha Rajaputraha swapitari na droham achareyuhu तथा ते प्रयत्नेन परोपजापादिभ्यः रक्षणीयाः इति राजपुत्ररक्षणम् इति सूत्रम्. So we have to even take care that the princess or the natural inheritors of the kingdom, they should not act against their fathers or the sitting, I mean, kings, right? So that is why they have to be protected from the 1 second, the word upajapa, actually I think yeah, upajapa means actually take, I mean, upajapa means to actually take away physically taking away the king. This happened even in, I suppose, in the recent Maratha history, if we take the son of Shambhaji Maharaj, I mean the grandson of Shivaji Maharaj, was actually bought up by the Mughals, I suppose. Due to that, the Pishwas had to actually take the administration into their hands historically. Balaji Pishwa, starting from Balaji Pishwa and then Bajirao Pishwa and etc. So this happened because I don't remember his name, Shambhaji's son. He was actually given training in such a way that he was intoxicated, he was a drug addict, he was full into women and etc. So he was not able to actually administer the kingdom by himself. So he was brought up in such a way by the Mughals. So here we may see that Upajapa has been done by the Mughals. So this has to not be done. So that is why, with lot of effort, that the Rajaputras or the princes or the inheritors of the kingdom should be safeguarded, and this prakarana deals with that. Maybe in nowadays we may take it in the training that the leadership has to go or something like that. Maybe where we don't know whose agent is who in the current scenario. We never know, because there are I think there was this series,
there are any number of cases now with raw officers and everyone being honey trapped. It's one of the most
and I think there is
now.
one Netflix series called Spy, where a Mossad agent in Egypt at the time of Sinai War, I suppose, he went until that state where he was about to become a minister in the in the Egypt administration.
Syria.
Yeah. So something like that. Then 14th and 15th. I think we'll stop here. Yeah. If anything else, Yeah, Sahu
So
one.
it is
Yeah,
very
Sambhaji's
interesting.
son. Susan.
Yeah. As we are getting into the principles, it's very interesting. There'll be a lot of things that we can correlate. So we'll make a running document. Namrata, if you also just a quick intro to the principle. Principle 1 context, principle 2 context, and then from there, I think as we look at it, we'll get a lot of questions related to what our contemporary issues are.
Sure.
Also, Srinivas, just one thing. There is a tendency to, so this whole thing, general thing is, people have understood one line, dharmasya moolam artha. And they use that to keep ad nauseum talk about how everything else is secondary, economic development is primary. This is one of the ways in which our own guys are. Right? One, the fallacy that Artha does not have anything to do with Dharma, in the sense that you can earn any kind of economic this one, and that need not be dharmic. That your means
that is actually my understanding also. I feel that there is no dharmic way to earn money. There are only adharmic ways to earn money from which you have to restrain. That is what I feel. There is I don't feel any dharmic way to earn money. But adharmic ways are there, which are actually, you can see that in what ways you have to not earn money. And apart from them, whatever is, because everything is subject to justification. So that is why when it is adharmic, that line has been drawn by the Dharma Shastras. So you have to know whether we are actually crossing that line or not.
Correct. And that has been, so this whole Artha Shastra has been divorced from Dharma. Because they use Artha Shastra to justify that kind of economic system, which is completely adharmic. Which is not
because
sustainable.
We don't understand, because that is why I started not directly with the Artha Shastra, but getting introduced into the what is Artha kind of a thing, because what is Artha? It is either Trivarga. It is Trivarga. One of the commentaries is Trivarga. Trivarga means Dharma, Artha and Kama. So Artha doesn't mean only Artha here. So unless and until
Artha is a meta category there.
Yeah. So that is why every time, whenever you ask a question or whenever you say, I will say I need some time because I have to go back and see and come, because I have seen so many commentaries to the same word in many different situations, contexts. So that is why, being trained in Shastra, I cannot say this is this. This can be only this, because we never know. Artha can be even purpose at times. Artha can be wealth
Arthavada.
at times. Arthavada, in Arthavada, Artha is something different. So that is why Artha can be meaning at times. So that is why I have to see the context. I have to see what it has been, how it has been dealt. Whether any one of the tantra yuktis is swasanya, that is terminology that is very much confined to that particular work. So we have to see whether this has any technical definition that has been given by the author or not. So we have to see many things, and then only we can come to a conclusion. Okay, this could be this. So
but this is a narrative that we will have to fight. See, one is basically justifying any kind of economic activity, saying that dharma se moolam artha. They've just picked up this one line without understanding anything about dharma or without understanding anything about artha. Right. Second is this idea that Artha Shastra is economic from an economic perspective, and it's divorced from Dharma Shastra. Whereas the tradition says Artha Shastra is the Dharma of Artha. Right? It is to understand what is the Dharmic. So there is nothing in the tradition or in the Indian civilizational way without Dharma at the center, with the Dharma at the core. So you cannot, so this separation that this is Artha Shastra, that is Dharma Shastra itself is this one. That has a particular context, but here it is about the Dharma of Artha. The way we should register, I guess.
Yes. Without Dharma, you cannot relate to any
of the other
Bharatiya literature.
But one question I've had from the beginning itself is, how come there is no tying of the rule or the responsibilities of the king to the fourth, the Chaturtha? We are only looking at 3. Why is that? Like, what could be the thinking behind that?
You see, here it is they did not actually de-link with the 4th Purushartha. So it is moreover like having a relation with moksha, if you actually follow this way, it is natural that you achieve moksha.
So exactly.
But
Moksha is a function of outcome of following
but
this.
they confined it to 3 purusharthas to make it clear that this is the main objective. Like in darshanas, if you see any of the astika darshanas, the main objective is moksha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The main objective is moksha. That doesn't mean that dharma, artha, and kama are left over. Without these 3, moksha cannot be achieved. So that is why you again have this dharmasya moolam, arthasya moolam, kama, and etc. So it is all interrelated, but this is like this comes under this anubandha chatushtaya. So what is the main prayojana? What is the main objective of this work? Is not moksha.
Okay.
It is the trivarga. What is the main objective of stating main objective doesn't actually deny the secondary objective.
Yeah, but it is, this text purpose is to focus on this dimension towards that. Like Natya Shastra would be to focus on some other dimension. Like Dharma Shastra would probably be on, Gruha Sutras could be something else.
Yes.
The final destination is that. But not only maybe 0.1% can circumvent and go to the direct. The rest of us have to go through that by fulfilling our responsibilities in this context, whether it is a Grihastha responsibility or in the case of Artha Shastra, the king's responsibility.
And we have to even understand that this is not a standalone work. In our total Astika literature or even in the Bharatiya literature, no work is standalone. I mean, you cannot say that this work doesn't has any other relation with the other works. So you have to understand, like Nyaya Vaisheshikas have a role to play until some extent. Then comes Sankhya Yoga, then comes Purva Mimamsa, then comes Uttara Mimamsa. You cannot say that each and everything is a standalone thing which doesn't has any other relation with the other kind of a knowledge source. So Artha Shastra is one aspect where it actually addresses some aspects of the society or the need. So some people study this. This doesn't mean that the king only has to study only Artha Shastra and not Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. So Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa will help him in order to achieve his Purushartha. The main Purushartha could be moksha. But that is why I say that there are 2 journeys I feel after studying Artha Shastra until some extent. There are 2 parallel lives that we live. One is your personal level. One is as an entity of this society. So as an entity of a society, your duties and responsibilities differ from your personal journey. So here in order to address certain issues, you need certain shastras. In order to address certain needs of your personal this thing or pursuit, you need to have other shastras for them. So each and every thing has their own focal or objectivity, and at the same time, the secondary objectivity or the indirect or the parampara sambandha that you can actually relate it with the moksha every time, because without moksha, everything, if you cannot relate any relation with the moksha, even in Natya Shastra also, the peripheral, the preliminary outcome could be the rasaswada of that person. But actually, this actually should deal with the both. I mean, whoever is performing the Natya, it is a personal pursuit for them to moksha.
Correct.
And this pursuit should help the rasika to again go into the path of moksha. So this is the inner layer thing of the Rasa Shastra. It doesn't only confine to the indriya, I mean the sensory pleasure. It doesn't restrain itself to that particular this thing. So everywhere we need to, that is why it depends upon the person who is actually studying that particular Shastra, to which level he can actually perceive that.
Okay.
Also, Artha Shastra itself is about Rajadharma, which is the guarantor of all other dharmas. Without Rajadharma, there is no Moksha Dharma also, in that sense. Because the conditions
even historically, I can state that even we have in Andhra, we have this bifurcation of Brahmanas being Niyogis and Vaidikis. So there is a subsect called Niyogi Brahmanas and the subsect called Vaidiki Brahmanas. So what is this Niyogi and Vaidiki? So Niyoga means being appointed. Being appointed in administration the people who have been appointed in administration are called Niyogis. So, in order to perform that Raja Dharma, they had to give away their Vaidika dharmas. That means whoever were Niyogis, they were not actually performing the Yajnas and Yagas that have been said, that are the Shrauta Yajnas and Yagas. So, they actually gave away. That is like a Tyaga that they have done. But if this is done, then how can they achieve moksha? Then it could actually contradict with the Dharma Shastras. Then you have to understand that even this is also a path for achieving moksha. So these Vaidikis are the people who actually did not, get into this administration, and they have confined themselves to the ritualistic this thing. So they are called Vaidikis. These guys are called Niyogis. So that way you have to understand that, but both have the path to achieve moksha.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so I think we'll conclude with Shantamantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.